yeah, is it Thursday already? This feels weird. Andor is officially over. Andor Season 2 has come to an end, but the series as a whole is over. Now, that seems like a sad thing. But did we just get the greatest Star Wars series of all time? That's going to be the conversation we're having today. We're reviewing and breaking down the entire Season 2 of Andor and putting it up against the rest. Because is this truly the best Star Wars project? We got a lot to dive into. Of course, we got to break down the final 3 episodes of this Andor series, but we got to talk about it as a whole. So without further ado, let's dive into all of it. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday afternoon? Yeah, it's a little strange. Andor is over. We won't be predicting at all what's going down in next week's episodes because there is no next week episodes. However, we've been here before, and we got to talk about this second season because it was freaking fantastic. Not only are we going to be recapping and reviewing and breaking down those final 3 episodes, but the entire season as a whole, the entire Andor series as a whole, because this show was chef's kiss perfection. The perfect segue, let's call it, into Rogue One, making Rogue One an even better Star Wars movie, which I thought was never possible. Gotta be completely honest with you. Andor is a top 3 movie for me. Andor. Rogue One is a top 3 movie for me in the Star Wars universe, and it might have just got better. That's crazy. That's like Revenge of the Sith getting better because of the Clone Wars. That's what we're talking about here. That's the same conversation we should be having because this Andor series made Rogue One even better, which is crazy. But without further ado, let's say hi to everybody in the chat. Before we break down all these episodes, let's say hi to everybody in the chat. Shall we? Holly, what is up? Dead Mike in the house. Mando United, how we doing? Starship 66 in the house. Haja, what is up? Chris, how we doing? 730 Evie, how we doing? Rachel in the house. Rob, what is up? Andrew in the building. Ian, what is up? Cooper, how we doing? Your pal Joe in the house. Tafari Tano, what is up? Ian, how we doing? I just said that. Ryan, how we doing? Darth Plagueis lives in the house. WV Grad, what is up? Okay, if I missed you, you know the deal. Just yell at me in the chat. Let's give everybody a nice little
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Okay, first things first, as we usually do, rank these final 3 episodes of Andor Season 2 in the chat. Rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. What do we think of the finale of Andor? Did it live up to the hype of episode 8 and 9 being those massive 10 out of 10 episodes? Or did it peter off a little bit? Or did it exceed your expectations? Was it the perfect ending to this second season? And while you do that, while you give me your ranking out of 10 in the chat, let's put up a poll, shall we? If you haven't smashed a freaking like on the stream, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. Go do that. But let's put up a poll. What did you think of Andor episodes 10, 11, and 12? Did you love them? What the hell? Did you loved it? Did you like them? Were you like, meh, I mean, it's all right? Or did you hate it? Were you like, oh my God, this is the worst that Star Wars has ever been. This is so bad. Or did you hate it? What do we think, chat? And rank it out of 10 in the chat. We got a 15 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9.5, 10 plus. Love the finale. Nice. 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 10 plus, 10. IG 88 out of 10. Okay. Greg, what's up? The final 3 episodes exceeded 12 out of 10 for sure. For me, and I gave my rankings in the breakdown videos yesterday, I ranked 2 of them both at 9.5s. I think it was episode 10, episode 12. And episode 11, the middle one being an 8.8. Total, it's in the 9s, probably a little like 9.3, 9.2-ish area. It's not as good as the week before, but it's good for different reasons. The prior week with the Gorman Massacre and Mon Mothma escaping from Coruscant, that was really, really good. It connected to Rebels a little bit, I guess a lot of it, but it was good because it was Andor itself. It was almost a finale of this second season. these last 3 episodes were almost connecting it to Rogue One while also giving us some more of Luthen and Clea and their backstory, and we'll get into all that in a second. But it almost felt like the bridge between these two separate projects, these last 3 episodes. And not that that's a bad thing, because it was a perfect bridge. It was the perfect, okay? Perfect. But it wasn't really what the week before was, which was almost its own finale, you know? Does that make sense, Chet? Do a Rogue One watch party? I was thinking about it. We might do a members-only watch party. I don't know. We'll see. Mike, did you miss that Davos's wife was with Perrin during the live stream? I said that during the live, but then when I went back and watched it, I wasn't sure, so I didn't put it in the breakdown video. I don't know. Was it Davos's wife that Perrin was with? Was it? It's a little strange because we were in the prediction live stream. We were like, will we ever see Perrin again? Did they just forget about this character? What's going on there? And then they showed us where Perrin is, and he's sort of just doing his own thing, you know? It's Davos's wife. That's wild. That is wild. Fearless with a 14-month membership. Oh, I forgot we had a super chat before the stream started. Hang on. Let me get to that super chat real quick. Holly with a very generous $10 holla. God damn. Says, just wanted to say, I'm so proud of what Tony Gilroy and his team achieved. This is some of the best, Star Wars that we've ever gotten, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Well, Holly, I could not agree with you more. I mean, round of applause for Tony Gilroy and the team over at Andor. Round of applause for the actors. I mean, it was just something else. It really, really was. Now, comparing it to the other projects is sort of what we're going to do on Saturday. We're going to do the usual bring up the tier list and rank all the different Star Wars seasons on the tier list and see where Andor Season 2 falls and Andor as a whole falls. But the question I raised today, and I'll ask you guys right now, and I'll ask you guys multiple times throughout this live stream, is this the best Star Wars show of all time? A lot of people had Andor as the best Star Wars show of all time before Season 2. And I think Season 2 is just going to be more, I guess, of a fortification of that. But for many of you, has this become the best Star Wars series? Tell me in the chat. We do have another super chat. Donald with a very generous $2 holla says, still need to watch the last episode. Wait, what? No to spoilers? What? You haven't watched the last episode, Donald? Come on. Well, we'll be spoiling the hell out of these last 3 episodes, so if you have not watched them, I would get on out of here. Yeah. Some of the best television, period. It just happens to be in Star Wars, too. Valid. Well, the way I look at it, too, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, is that the best Star Wars is just the best television. Like, The Mandalorian is some of the best television. Ahsoka is some of the best television. Star Wars Rebels, The Clone Wars is some of the best television. Just because it exists in Star Wars doesn't take away from the fact that it's just great television. And Andor is the same way. Absolutely. For me, yes, it's definitely the best. Okay. I heard the baby at the end is really Kylo Ren and Lonnie's baby is Rey. I don't think so. Yeah. Honestly, Andor is better than most of the movies. Never mind just the series. Valid. I've heard that argument quite a bit over the last couple of weeks here, especially with episode 8 and 9. It seems like many fans are putting Andor at the top of the list in terms of just Star Wars ever. Making it better than the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy and all these other movies. That's some high praise. The fact that it's even in the conversation is an accomplishment nonetheless. I'm torn between Ahsoka and this, but I think I'm going to say yes to Andor being better. Well, again, the argument has to be brought up that it's 1 season versus 2. And Ahsoka Season 2, of course, comes out next year. It's very crazy to think that Andor Season 2, or Andor in general, was going to be this good. Remember, cast your minds back, chat, to when this show first got announced. Nobody, absolutely nobody, was going, this Andor show is going to be one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time. No, we were like, who's Cassian Andor again? Oh, that guy from Rogue One. Oh, it's a Rogue One spinoff. Okay, sure. Like, nobody cared. Nobody really cared. And then it drops, and we're like, okay, this is pretty good. And then it keeps getting better. Then you get Aldani. Then you get Narkina 5. Then you get the finale, and you're like, oh my God, Andor is great. And then they up themselves with season 2. Actually, I want to ask you guys in the chat, which did you think was better, Andor season 1 or season 2? Because to me, it's almost a no-brainer. Andor season 2 is so much better. Not to put down Andor season 1, because Andor season 1 is fantastic. It has its Narkina 5, it's One Way Out, it's Aldani the Eye, it's got the Rick's Road episode. It's great, don't get me wrong. But these last 5 episodes, I would take over any 5 episodes in season 1 all day long. Season 2 is that much better. But tell me in the chat, what do you think is better? Season 1 or season 2? Season 2 has more of the memorable episodes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing too is season 1 is almost establishing all those characters, establishing characters like Cyril and Dedra and Luthen and Clea, and season 2 is the payoff of all of that. That's got to be put into effect too. Okay, but now let's break down these final 3 episodes, shall we? Whoa. Oh my God. Greg with the $20 super chat. Holy crap, Greg. I appreciate that quite a bit. Says, from now on, when I hear mentioned the prequels, I'm thinking of Andor season 1 and season 2 and Rogue One. Well, then what does that make this the prequel trilogy then, Greg? The pre-prequels? The prequels? It's actually a great take though, because yeah, I mean that's the prequel trilogy now. Andor season 1 and Andor season 2. And Rogue One. That's the trilogy. That's the trilogy. All right, well, let's talk about it. So, first things first, let's start with episode 10. I was actually quite shocked when it came. These are just the posters that they post with them. I was quite shocked by this 10th episode, getting the backstory of Luthen and Clea, because we were talking about the backstory of Luthen for quite some time. Is he a Jedi? Is he a Separatist? Is he a Sith? We had some crazy theories out there. A few people said it, but not many people were like, this is definitely what's going on. But a few people said maybe Luthen at some point is a defector of the Empire or something along those lines. And that's sort of the reality of the situation here. We get, more importantly, Clea's backstory in this 10th episode as she takes the lead of this show pretty much, because Cassian's not even in this 10th episode. But we get to see Clea in Luthen's backstory as we learn how he came to be, how the rebellion came to be, how he became this gallery owner on Coruscant. It finally was all revealed. Now tell me in the chat, what did you think of this? Was this a good backstory for Luthen? I thought it was good. Well, what did you think? And while all this is going on, Dedra, in this year gap between episode 9 and episode 10, finally figured it out. She finally figured it out. She really waltzes right into the gallery while Luthen is trying to cover up evidence, and goes face to face with the guy she's been searching for years now. It's pretty wild. She comes right in and she's like, "Hey, look what I found." And she's got the what's it called? Starpath unit? Is it Starpath? Yeah. Starpath unit from season 1. And she pulls it out, and immediately Luthen's face drops. He knows immediately that he's been caught, and he knows that his time is up. He takes the blade, which, by the way, was of the species. What the hell's the species of Kit Fisto? Chat, somebody help me on the chat. He takes the blade that has Kit Fisto's head on it and stabs himself, trying to end it, but he survives. He survives. So the rest of the story of the rest of episode 10 is pretty much just Clea trying to go kill Luthen, finish the job so that they can be protected, because they'll torture the hell out of him until he gives up the information about Yavin, gives up the information about the entire rebellion, and everything falls to pieces. So Clea is the key here, and we get to see, as she's going to kill Luthen, the backstory of these two characters. Technically, if you want to get technical, Luthen is part of the reason why Clea's whole family is dead. So you get this sort of back and forth between she loves the guy because he's sort of a father figure to her, while also she hates the guy because he killed her family. And that love-hate relationship type deal is really what gets good throughout this 10th episode. And it ends with Luthen dying. Now, Rogue One does something very cool where it explains how the Death Star is so easily defeated. Because if we're being honest, guys, it's a planet-killing weapon. The fact that an X-Wing can go in there and just destroy it so easily is kind of a big issue that a lot of fans had with the original trilogy, with A New Hope. But Rogue One fixes that by telling us that there was a purposeful flaw put into the Death Star, and that was by Galen Erso, who was forced to do this against his will. And Rogue One tells that story brilliantly. But what doesn't really get told is how the rebellion comes to be. Obviously, we see Yavin 4 in this great, huge rebellion, but there was one guy, really, one guy, who made that happen. And that one guy is Luthen Rael, a character that we didn't even know about 3 years ago. He didn't even exist in the Star Wars universe until 3 years ago. And now he is so important to the rebellion itself. That's pretty damn cool. That also proves the point that you can still integrate characters or introduce characters, new characters, into Star Wars storylines that can have a huge lasting effect on the majority of the Skywalker saga. And what I mean by that is look at a character like Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano has a huge impact on the Skywalker saga, on Anakin specifically, even talks to Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, she has this huge, everlasting effect on the Skywalker saga. She's not in a single movie. None. She's not even mentioned in the originals or the prequels, and obviously she didn't exist at the time, but even still, she is proof that a character can be vital to a main character like Anakin Skywalker or Luke Skywalker, and it still makes sense. And Luthen is just another example of that. Now, why is that important? Say, hey, Mike, why is that important? Mike, why is that important? Well, as we sit and look at the future here, post Andor Season 2, we look into next year, into The Mandalorian and Grogu, into Ahsoka Season 2. And there's a specific character that is very vital to the character of Luke Skywalker in Legends that could be introduced to the Star Wars timeline and play a massive role in the future of Star Wars. And that character goes by the name of Mara Jade. Mara Jade being the wife, or first villain, but then wife of Luke Skywalker, could play a huge role in why Luke ends up the way that he does in the sequel trilogy, or just play a huge role in the Heir to the Empire stuff. Giving Luke more of a backstory with a wife would be insane. It would make you watch the sequels in a completely different light. And even though she's not mentioned in the sequels, Ahsoka's not mentioned in the prequels. Luthen's not mentioned in Rogue One or the originals because he's sort of the guy who started the whole damn rebellion. He's the unsung hero. So Luthen Rael is the perfect example, and Tony Gilroy did it so well, where he's pretty much the catalyst for the entire rebellion, and we don't even know who he is in the movies. Ahsoka Tano is a huge part to why Anakin Skywalker falls to the dark side, and she's not even mentioned or known about in the movies. The same thing can happen with a character like Mara Jade or anybody else going forward in the future. And that's what's really cool about the character of Luthen, and his death was perfect. I didn't know how they were going to do it. Would Cassian have killed him? Would Dedra get the satisfaction of killing him? I didn't know how they were going to go down, but it went down perfectly. Clea was the one who kills him in the end, really. And it was great. It was great. We also got, in this thing we see here, Naboo, right there in the middle. We got Naboo for the first time in 20 years, since 2005, I think, right? Well, in live action, because we've seen it in Tales of the Jedi. Is it maybe even in the Clone Wars? Well, it's definitely in the Clone Wars a little bit. I don't think it's in Rebels or Bad Batch. But first time in live action, it's back in for the first time in 20 years. It's more so just in the backstory and all that stuff, but it was still great. So that's episode 10. Ends with Luthen dying. Dedra finally catches him. All that craziness goes down. Oh wait, the biggest thing is the beginning of the episode. They find out about the Death Star. Now they don't know it's the Death Star specifically, but they know that there is a weapon, a big old super weapon, and that. Well, Lonnie gives the information away. He gives the information that it's all connected. The Gorman front, the mining of kyber crystals on Jeddah, Galen Erso, this engineer that works for the Empire, all of that is connected to this energy initiative project that Palpatine is doing, but it's really to build this gigantic weapon called the Death Star. Got it? Cool. Okay. So that brings us to the next episode, which is episode 11. Who else knows? So this is the best we've ever seen Krennic. I mean, hands down, the best we've ever seen Krennic. He's badass. He's scary. He's the boss. Because in Rogue One, he's not. He's getting force choked by Vader. He's really getting just tossed around. He dies to Tarkin because Tarkin takes his project from him. So this is the best we've ever seen Krennic. 1,000%. This scene between him and Dedra in that interrogation scene, we were right about that with the trailer. It's the best we've ever seen Krennic. And it was so damn good. So damn good. But this is really the ultimate bridge episode from that 10th episode to the 12th episode. It gives us the lead up to where this ends. It gives us the Cassian and Melshi in K2SO and them going from Yavin 4 on a secret mission they're not supposed to be going on because Yavin is now this very strict place where he up and leaves with Melshi and K2 to go save Kleia because a secret transmission was sent through. And it sets up the final arc, the final battle on Coruscant, and, of course, the perfect setup for Rogue One. But this episode in particular wasn't my favorite, definitely wasn't my favorite, but it gives us the greatest Krennic we've ever seen in that interrogation scene, and it gives us some more of Coruscant. It gives us K2SO in action. It gives us some really good stuff. In K2, I didn't realize how much I missed the droid. He's the best. He's the freaking best. Let's be honest. Tell me your favorite droid in the chat from Star Wars. For me, it's still R2-D2, but Chopper, K2SO, those C-3PO, those guys are all in the same conversation. Absolutely. If there's one problem I have, and it's not that big, but one problem I have with this second season is that K2 isn't really introduced until these final 3 episodes. Because yes, he was introduced in episode 8 and 9, but he wasn't really in it. We got so much K2 in these final 2 episodes, and he's awesome. He's so awesome. R5 is your favorite droid? That's underrated. Underrated. Can someone explain the ending of episode 12? We'll get there, Omni-Man. We'll get there. BD1's a great one, too, for sure. R2, fantastic. Yeah. Hu Yang, okay, yeah, you can't forget about Huge Wang. K2SO and AP5. AP5's underrated, too. Yeah. B2 is tough. Yeah, B2's good. For sure. The ISB versus the Rebellion is what made this show so good. Yeah, I mean, it's a very grounded surface level Star Wars show. There's no Jedi, there's no Force, there's not much additions to the lore. I mean, there's Easter eggs up the wazoo, but it's not really expanding the Jedi and Sith lore or anything like that. But it's still some of the greatest Star Wars storytelling ever received. Like, it's insane. But who else knows, to me, was the weakest of these 3 episodes. Not that it was bad by any means, but it was the weakest of these 3 episodes. And they have to go hunt down Kleia, and it leaves us on a big old cliffhanger for that final episode. So, without further ado, let's get to it. The final episode, called Jeddah, Kyber, and Urso. Of course, the Kyber crystals being mined on Jeddah, and Galen Erso, who's in charge of the Death Star. We know that already. But I've seen some talk online that this was a anticlimactic ending, which I was actually very surprised by. Tell me in the chat what you thought of this ending. Was it a good ending? And how do you think they balanced the difference of finishing a season with Andor Season 2 and bridging the gap between Andor Season 2 and Rogue One? Tell me what you thought about the finale itself, Episode 12, in the chat. Well, let's talk about it. So it opens on Coruscant after the cliffhanger. Melshi, K2, and Kleia and Cassian, they have to escape Coruscant, which they do. They escape Coruscant, and they come back to Yavin, where they are met with What's the opposite of open arms? They're met with with the worst of arms. The arms are completely closed. The arms are chopped off. They aren't very happy to see them back the way that they are. Cassian's there with news that the Empire has this weapon, that the energy project was just a whole sham, and all this stuff on Jeddah, and all this stuff with Saw Gerrera, by the way, who is in this episode, which I thought we'd get a lot more of. We didn't, but that's okay. Saw Gerrera, who's on Jeddah and causing issues for the rebellion, he's on to it, but he's also lost his mind. He's completely lost his mind from the Rhydonium. But Cassian's telling him the answers to the answers to the test. He has the answers to the test. The Death Star is there, and he knows what it is to an extent. He doesn't know what the weapon is, but he knows what it is and why they're making it and all this other stuff. But the rebellion won't listen to him because it came from Luthen. Now, this is pretty wild because Luthen is really the reason, and Cassian explains this, the reason that they are all there on Yavin. He doesn't go to Yavin himself because he knows that he's not supposed to be there, but he is what built this. And yet they won't believe his final goodbye, his final piece of the biggest thing to ever happen. Now, granted, Draven kind of believes Cassian. Mon Mothma kind of believes Cassian. Bale's not having it. Senator Palmo's not having it. The other guy's not having it. So it's sort of a split room, I guess. But yeah, it's an argument that is had. Cassian gets grounded, but we hear about Tivik calling him in for a favor on Kafrene, the Ring of Kafrene, where Rogue One originally begins. So it's all sort of becoming connected quickly over time. Now, what I found really, really interesting about this 12th episode was the fact that we had to kill off a bunch of these characters. We were talking about how everybody's going to die. Luthen, Clea, Wilmon, Vel, Dedra, all of them. They have to die. Of those people I just listed, Luthen dies. That's it. So the characters of Clea, Vel, and Wilmon specifically, those three rebels, they still are on Yavin 4. They survive. Now, they're not in Rogue One, but now when you watch Rogue One, you kind of know that they're there. You know what I mean? And the coolest part, and sort of the worst end possible for a very evil character, is Dedra. Dedra's end in a prison, just like Cassian was. Probably not on Narkina 5, but let's just say it's on Narkina 5, because why not? She's wearing the same outfit that Cassian was wearing. She's in the prison cell. All this stuff. It's just perfect. The perfect end to all these different characters. It was so great. Because Dedra, for 2 straight seasons, felt like she was on top of the world. She was fighting the rebels. She was doing all this stuff. She was pretty much the most genius Imperial supervisor that they had at the ISB. And she ends up in a prison as a prisoner of the Empire, the people that she served her entire life. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But this 12th episode, I thought, was the perfect bridge between Andor Season 2 and Rogue One, but some people have been saying very different things online. However, very little Krennic in this episode. He's just looking out at the Death Star at the very end. And very little Saw Gerrera in the second season at all, really. Just a big revelation in episode 5 that he's got the Rhydonium, and that's what's making him go insane. And that's why he's insane in Rogue One. But not really much of an explanation there going on for storytelling, I guess, for Saw Gerrera, or Krennic for that matter. But even still, let's talk about the ending, because I see some questions about the ending, the very, very end. So K2 and Cassian are on their way to go visit Tivik in the alleyway where we first see him in Rogue One. So it's literally going, Cassian's flying to the opening scene of Rogue One, where he's in that alleyway on the Ring of Kafrene. Try saying that 10 times fast. And he's meeting Tivik, which is Saw Gerrera's informant, because Tivik has just got the news that Bodhi, the Imperial pilot that defects from the Empire with the information of Galen Erso and building the Death Star and all the whole plot of Rogue One. So he's going there to start Rogue One. But the final scene of the entire series The final scene is this. Bix on Mina Rao. Let me pull it up here. Oops. Bix on Mina Rao with B2, by the way, as she is holding a baby. Is it Cassian's? Yes, it's Cassian's baby. I mean, I've seen some jokes online about it being somebody else, but it's Cassian's baby. Now, this, to me, it's not setting up a future show. It's not setting up a spin-off of Bix in this child. It's pretty much showing us what Cassian had to give up. What Cassian Andor, the title of this entire series, had to sacrifice for the rebellion. Because that's what it is. He learned from Luthen as Luthen sacrificed everything, even his own life, for the rebellion. And that's what Cassian does as well. As we know that he dies on the beaches of Scarif, sacrificing himself to get the Death Star plans to the rebellion. And what he's sacrificing really is his whole family, his love with Bix and his child right here. So this isn't setting up a future spin-off show of the Bix and Cassian Jr. show. It's really just showing us what Cassian could have had and what he sacrificed in the end. It's pretty wild. It's pretty dang wild. Bix is the hope. True. I mean, it's always that there's always still hope, even though Cassian falls to his demise. Yeah. What's the kid's name? I don't think it was given a name. And I think they want to keep it that way. You know? I think so. I love the scene. To me, it shows that life goes on. So much death, but life is free and freedom survives. True. This is what Cassian sacrificed his life for Bix to have a future, for his child to have a future, to take down the Empire. And that's sort of what he does. He's the catalyst that eventually ends the Empire with the first Death Star and catapults Luke Skywalker to becoming a Jedi and taking down the Emperor and Vader. So Cassian is as big a part of taking down the Empire as anybody does. Anybody. And this is the future that he gave up. A sunrise that he'll never see. Exactly. Yeah. Shout out to Lonnie. He's the real MVP. I mean, he came in clutch. Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that it goes down to. Because Luthen, without Lonnie, yes, you don't have the plans, but without Luthen, Lonnie's not there. You know? And I mean, you could track it even back further to without Kleia, Luthen might not be the rebel leader that he is. It probably tracks back even further than that, but still, it takes a lot of different pieces to put this puzzle together. And Cassian's just one of those big old pieces. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that Luthen did, though, shoot Lonnie right then and there. Pretty wild. Could this kid be Ryan Gosling's character in the new Starfighter movie? I seriously doubt it. I don't think that's the reason of setting this up. Like, that's not it, you know? That's not the purpose of this whole thing, you know? I don't think so. It would be kind of cool, but I don't think that's the reason of setting up this child. Yeah. Cannibal the Dragon, what's up? Kleia will remember Lonnie. That's true. Kleia's still out there. Well, the cool part about it, too, is that Kleia, Vel, Wilmot, those characters, they exist in the original trilogy. They are around during that time, and we know that, but they're not in the movies, you know? So if there ever was to be, hang on, we got a super chat. If there ever was to be a spin-off show, not of Andor, but just in the original trilogy time period, that could focus on like a Harrison Dula and a Chopper and the Ghost crew that still exists, I guess, because Sabine goes off and trains with Ahsoka, and Ezra's, of course, gone. But them and Omega, maybe, because Omega and Hera have that backstory. You could then integrate characters like Vel, like Wilmot, like Kleia, because it's probably all about the rebellion and Yavin, and you could overlap those certain characters. And that's maybe more so what that's for. But let's get to that super chat real quick. Darth Plagueis lives with a very generous $10 holla. God damn, you guys are feeling generous today. Says, wow, what an ending. I'm so sad it's over. Yeah, I mean, I felt that when I was making my breakdown videos yesterday. This is the last time we'll be doing this, which was kind of a bummer. Uh, but at the same time, the show was so good that I didn't want it to continue. Like if it just dragged on for another season or two, it wouldn't be good. Or it maybe would be pretty good, but it wouldn't be as good as it was. You know? This second season, the way that they did it with the time jumps in between each arc, the 3-episode releases, they were 1000% right. All credit to Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, Tony Gilroy, everybody behind the scenes, because that was the perfect way to do that. The 3-episode arcs, the release dates of only 4 weeks. I thought they were crazy. I thought they were absolutely insane. I thought they lost their goddamn minds. To push a show that could stretch over 12 weeks to only be over 4 is a risk, and it's a big one. But it paid off drastically because these 3-episode arcs work so perfectly. If we had a week in between these episodes, it wouldn't work as well. The episodes would not be as good because you need the first 2 episodes to finish off the third one. It just works so well. And I think if they dragged it on for another season or 2, it wouldn't have been as good. So yes, it's very sad to see this show go. It's an incredible series, and it's probably one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time. But it had to end this way. It had to go. You know, it had to do it. It had to do it. And hey, there's always going to be a sequel. Rogue One. I heard Rogue One's going to be an incredible movie, by the way. It comes out next year. It's going to be Galen Erso. I heard he has a daughter, and it's going to be crazy. She's going to come into the rebellion with Cassian. They might even die to the Death Star. The rumors are running wild with that movie, but yeah, it's going to be great. I heard it's only releasing on Disney Plus, though, which is weird. Yeah. Dedra Prison Break show coming soon. Now, I'd watch that. If you're going to do a spinoff of Andor Season 2, make it a Dedra Prison Break. That would be awesome. I'd watch that. A Clea spinoff show would be dope. Yeah, I really don't think that they're going to do that. I just don't see it. Because Tony Gilroy is sort of the key to this equation that is Andor's success. And I appreciate the hearts, guys. And the cool part about it is that it leads directly into Rogue One. So the beginning of Tony's time with Star Wars, which was back in 2015, 2016, with Rogue One, which was 10 years ago, is that it ends with that story. So he started with the end, much like George Lucas did. Always starts in the middle of the story. He starts in the middle of the story and tells the end of it. And then he comes back and tells the beginning. Very George Lucas-esque. But Tony's leaving Star Wars. Like, this is his final farewell. Maybe he'll come back eventually and do some project here or there, but he's done for a while because he just spent the last decade of his life working on Star Wars and giving us some of the greatest Star Wars content to ever exist. But he's done with Star Wars. So I don't think they'll do a spin-off show with any of these characters without Tony's involvement. So I don't see a spin-off happening, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Some people are saying maybe a spin-off of a backstory of Luthen and Clea, but I don't think so either because, first of all, Stellan Skarsgård is not aging backwards. That would be pretty difficult to do too. Now, in animation, you could do a bunch of stories. Maybe tell us a Luthen story of somehow maybe a Tales of the Rebellion, because that's probably where they're going next. You've gotten Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Underworld. I'm sure Tales of the Rebellion could be one of the next stories, and maybe that's a Luthen story or maybe a Clea story. Who knows? But that would be kind of cool. Yeah. That's actually a great question. If they were going to do a Tales of the Rebellion, and you could take one character from Andor, just one, to do a Tales extension story, who would you do? Would it be Clea? It would have to be a post Andor Season 2 story, I think. Probably like what they're doing during the original trilogy type deal. Who would you pick from the Andor cast? Vel, I think, would be a good one because she's connected to all the people. She's connected to Bix. She's connected to Clea. She's connected to Mon Mothma. Maybe it's about Mon Mothma, actually, now that I think about it. Because Mon is around during the time of the original trilogy. We see her in Return of the Jedi, and she survives because she's in Ahsoka, too. So maybe it's about her. Could be. Could be. They could do a Tales of the ISB. They could, definitely. Yeah. Why did Luthen end off himself? Well, Luthen had to die. And he knew that. Luthen stayed on Coruscant because he knew eventually he was going to sacrifice himself for the greater good. And he didn't know what that was going to be until Lonnie came to him and said, they're making a weapon. All these things that we've been working on for the last 5 years have been interconnected. The Gorman stuff, the Jedha stuff, all this stuff is connected. And that was sort of the final mission for Luthen. He heard that and he goes, this is it. And when Dedra comes to his doorstep, he knew his time was up. And he couldn't get caught. He knew that. He even with his stubbornness, the Empire would eventually torture the information out of him. Yeah. Snoke's backstory and how he was on Narkina 5. Okay. Let's clear something up here. Kino Loy is not Snoke, first and foremost, but I will say, because people were like, well, where was Kino Loy? Because Andy Serkis was talking about maybe being in season 2, and we were talking about that the entire season. Tony Gilroy is asked about this and actually gave a pretty good answer here. So let's take a look at this. This is sort of the answers to a bunch of different questions. So let's start with this one first, and then we'll go to the entire article. So Tony Gilroy is asked why Kino Loy does not appear in Andor season 2, and here's what he had to say. What am I going to do that's going to be better than what we did in season 1? That's it. Does it minimize that moment where it's revealed that he can't swim? So what he first starts with is, how can I top that? He had such a great end to his character. Why bring him back? Which is a great way to talk, which is a great way to think. And he goes on to say, it's like Cassian's sister. And this was a big plot point as to what was going on in the final scene there. When Cassian gets woken up by K2 to leave, he's having a dream about his sister. We haven't seen that sister. We haven't seen these flashbacks since the first 3 episodes of the series. So was that really just to sort of connect to the beginning? Or was there something more going on there? Some people still thinking that Clea could be Cassian's sister, but tell me in the comments. Hang on, we got a super chat real quick. We got a super chat. Hodger with a very generous $5 holla says, if they ever do a Bothan's spy story about the second Death Star, it will be a few years. Please, Tony, do it. Then some of these characters could return. Maybe. I mean, what iHodge is talking about here is in episode 6, Return of the Jedi. They talk about how many Bothans died to get the plans for the second Death Star. Would they ever tell that story? I mean, never say never, because you never thought they'd tell the story of how they got the first plans to the Death Star for the first movie, but it seems highly unlikely. I don't know. But going back to this. So Tony goes on to say, Kino Loy is much like Cassian's sister. People wanted to know if you were going to resolve the sister arc. We were really thinking about that. She's much more valuable to me for Cassian as an absence. So she's not being in his life. He needs to return and save the people to be the savior. And the compulsion to do that comes from this hole in his life. And I didn't really want to fill that hole. So the reason he joins the rebellion, or the reason he is a rebel in the first place, is sort of because of what happened to him on Kenari. He's been fighting the Empire since he was 6 years old because of what happened on Kenari. And losing that sister, having that hole, as Tony puts it, in his life is almost a catalyst to what makes him the way that he is, what makes him this savior of all these other people in the galaxy, this Captain Cassian Andor. And Bix, for a while there, actually almost fills that hole, and that's why at the end of episode 9, she has to leave. She has to, because Cassian wouldn't be the rebel, wouldn't be the savior that he becomes in Rogue One if Bix was there. That's actually pretty good. So the reason we don't see Kino Loy is the same reason we don't get Cassian's sister. Because Cassian needs that hole. And honestly, why do it? Kino Loy's end to his story in season 1 was so good. Why make it worse by continuing it? Kino Loy shouting at Dedra would have been phenomenal. Would it, though? Because that would mean that Kino got put back into the prison. And that would be a bummer. You hope that he escapes, or you hope that maybe he's out there somewhere. Just because he couldn't swim, maybe he found another way. Leaving it open-ended, I think, is better, because I don't want to see him back in the prison. That's brutal. That's horrible. And we don't want that. Just imagine Kino Loy, the day shift manager for Dedra. Again, I hope not. I hope not. Yeah. Bix was replaced by K2. Yeah, kind of. In a way. Actually, before we even get to this article about Tony Gilroy explaining the finale and all the biggest ties to Rogue One, I want to watch this declassified thing. So at the after every episode, after every 3-episode arc, Star Wars has posted these declassified stuff, and this one is actually really good because it's sort of a farewell to the season, and it's pretty good. So let's take a look at this. By the way, it's 15 minutes long, so we will be sort of, pausing it, talking about it, the whole usual.
We know what our final shot of the show is. We know the tragic dimension of what happens to at least our central character. Knowing where you're finishing is just the most liberating. That means that you can just swing away inside.
May the Force be with you.
He brings up a great point already, because knowing where you end, much like knowing where you end with Rogue One, because they know where they end with the original trilogy, knowing where you end gives you the opportunity to do whatever the hell you want as long as it ends where it ends, as long as it leads into what comes next. And I think when you look at like the prequel trilogy, for example, and I mean the prequel trilogy, eventually that Palpatine becomes the Emperor and Vader becomes Vader, or Anakin becomes Vader. You know that. That's revealed in the original trilogy. But how you get there, the big swings that Tony Gilroy talks about here, that's the best part. That's the best part. Yeah. Did you check out James Gunn's new Superman trailer? I did. I did watch it. It came out yesterday, right? I did watch it. It's pretty good. It's got me excited. I go in hesitantly because DC has been so all over the place over the last decade. And although I really liked Man of Steel and I liked Henry Cavill's Superman, they had quite a few misses over there at DC. So this is like the first, the first swing that they have with this new regime with James Gunn. Okay, enough about Superman. Sorry, but yeah, they got a lot riding on that movie.
Captain.
One of my favorite parts of season 2 was working out how to develop the look on Yavin. It was wonderful to think about how all of these rebel fighters came from all over the galaxy, from all of their different cultures, and started becoming unified. And so we kind of deconstructed that. You go from this wonderful diversity of look of fighters, and a year later, coming together.
That's Pow from Rogue One right there. This guy right here. Did you know that this guy actually has the longest name in Star Wars, or one of the longest names in Star Wars? Check this out. No, hang on. His name is Pow. Star Wars. Check this guy out. This is his full name. He goes by Pow, but this is him right here. His name is Powdok Draba the Takatsup de Rati Nick Link T Kifi K-C-G-B. That's his name. If you ever see this guy in Rogue One or in Andor season 2, just know that's his name. Okay, going back.
Working together, becoming more of a unified fighting force.
We are currently in Stage 1 at Long Cross, which has housed for many weeks now our Yavin hangar.
Talk about practical effects. They built this entire hangar. When you have to hit that 1,000 words on the essay, that's pretty good. Yeah, they just needed a longer name for him so that they could fit enough words in the script.
The scale of it, it's one of the biggest sets I've ever been on. You have to stand there with your mouth open agape. It feels like I am that 7-year-old kid who stood up from my velvet-covered cinema seat, walked down the aisle and climbed into the screen.
It's a personal trip.
The ship's to be fitted with hypercoms tomorrow.
We fit hypercoms tomorrow.
We won't be long. We won't take long. I have to say. We won't take long.
What I realized, you can walk into this set and it feel like a museum very quickly. And it needed to not have that sterility, so we're not sort of walking into a piece of concept art. So we tried to make our sets as interactive as possible, not just for our key cast, but also for our back.
Those guys look like they're going to die. We need a backstory on the guys running in Yavin base. Well, honestly, the ironic part about that is that we do get a backstory for a lot of people on Yavin now. Like now when you watch Rogue One and you watch A New Hope and you look at the characters in the background, you're not going to see the characters of Vel and Cinta. Or sorry, not Cinta. She's dead. Vel and Clea and Wilmon, but you'll know they're there. And you'll know the backstory of a lot of those characters that are just background rebel characters, you know?
People can actually be mending or fixing or working on or transporting.
We had to build X-Wings. Everyone else was very excited about it, particularly the X-Wings anyway.
What are the chances I could build a real-life X-Wing and I could, fly it around the world? What do you think my chances are that I could build an X-Wing, Chad?
It was bigger than I remembered. I loved walking in there and seeing this huge cement space
Zero
place. It felt really lovely to step back into that, because that's an iconic space for her.
What is this? We think you might be able to help us.
We actively avoided the round table and saved that for Rogue One, but we did recreate the sort of meeting room that has the hologram of Saw Gerrera in the middle.
We know you're on Jeddah, Saw. We know you're picking off Imperial transports.
This
it was really cool where Cassian and Biggs live. It's quite nice to understand that even though they were there when things were getting built, they had an opportunity to be a family.
It's supposed to be like almost like an antidote to Coruscant as well. Like they'd been in that safe house apartment, that sort of hermetic cube with a concrete jungle outside. But they're still at war as well. They're still refugees, essentially, camping. So it was a really hard one to find a balance. So the idea that they found a shell and they repurposed the shell by sort of a dome shape, then try and take some essence of Kanari from his youth into the bedroom structure, the sort of TP. Elements from Mina Rao, like the hammock, and from when he was in Aldani and stuff like that. So there's some logic to how Cassian helped build the elements and bring them together. Sort of has a glow and a warmth to it, a homeliness when Bix is there, certainly, that goes away when Bix leaves in a way.
That's pretty cool. I didn't even think of that. Like they put together this Cassian and Bix home by integrating the teepee from Kanari when he was a kid and integrating stuff from Aldani and Mina Rao. Like they put all this stuff together. And it's very much the contrast of what happens on Coruscant. Because in episode 4 through 6, they're living in that super secret safe room on Coruscant. And Bix keeps talking about how they want to make this feel more like a home. And then they get their home. It's just on Yavin instead.
You don't have any tens left, do you?
It would be sad if the two of you were conspiring again.
Hey!
We come back a year later, it's like a frat house. It's kind of a mess, and they're playing cards, and they're drinking too much, and Melshi lives there, and K2 lives there.
Really, we forget that a year ago, when we last saw Cassian in this building, in the same house, Bix had left him. And it was this very emotional scene of Bix saying, I will find you eventually. And we know that obviously she doesn't because Cassian is dead. But a year has gone by. And not only has he gotten a new best friend in K2SO, but now Melshi's living with him too. So like it's this huge drastic shift, and how they utilized the year gap in between the seasons was so damn good.
People have had to be very patient, and Alan's had to be very patient. But I knew from Rogue how powerful K2 is, but also how hard it is to tell stories when he's involved. It's a very difficult piece of gear to carry around.
There's a base-wide restriction on unauthorized radio transmission.
I can pull up the exact language if you're curious.
K2, he's kind of a clown in a lot of ways. He's like a child.
No one is curious.
I always saw him as an honest child who is new to the world and just says things he feels.
But disobeying orders is so refreshing.
He doesn't mean anything bad by it. That's what he thinks. When I was asked to come back, I was like, yeah, I'd love to fly another spaceship or two. I didn't crash a one of them, which is rare for me.
Working with Alan, again, was fabulous, and seeing him in his stilts and his crazy suit, it was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
before we switch over to Luthen and Clea stuff, because it's great, having Alan back, he's just hilarious, first of all. But getting more K2SO, again, it's my only complaint that we didn't get enough. I want more K2SO. And the sad part is we'll probably never see him again.
When I was asked to come back, I was like, yeah, I'd love to fly another spaceship or two. I didn't crash on one of them.
And when you think about it, his character was only a year old when he died, because he gets reactivated, or I guess reprogrammed, at the end of episode 9, and then a year later he dies in Rogue One, or about a year later.
It's rare for me.
Working with Alan again was fabulous, and seeing him in his stilts and his crazy suit, it was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The Luthen episode was a real special thing for all of us, and it was special to build it.
Hold up. Wait a second. Rewind.
His stilts and his crazy suit. It was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay. I thought my mind went crazy for a second there. I thought this ring right here was the one that Snoke wears in The Force Awakens, or in The Last Jedi. Okay, never mind. Never mind, Chet. Never mind.
The Luthen episode was a real special thing for all of us, and it was special to build it. And Stellan and I had conversations in the very, very beginning, and I promised him that we would do this.
Tony. Right there. Whoop. Pause. So this is the sort of mud trooper uniform that is from Solo, Star Wars story. And this, to me, I mean, confirms, without confirming, but confirming, that Luthen worked for the Empire. Like, he was a sergeant in the Imperial Army, or military, whatever you want to call it. And then he breaks. He leaves because he sees how evil that the Empire was. So to think that the guy who created the rebellion, the guy who laid the groundwork and walked so that they could run with the rebels on Yavin, and what eventually takes down the Empire, to think that he worked for the Empire at one point, it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
It had a vague idea about flashbacks, and it was something about I had a family that was killed or something, like a normal revenge story. Then he came up with that actually it's the girl's revenge.
I know what I want.
That he would not have become that revolutionary without Clea. She's the one that is fierce.
In a way, she's the key.
It is not a father-daughter relationship, because for it to become that, it would mean that Clea forgives him for having done that to her family. There are parts of Clea that really hate this man. That day is not going anywhere. It will always be between them. But love does grow around it. It's a very conflicting place for Clea to exist in.
Now, before we get to Dedra, the character of Clea, and I guess Luthen too, now, like when you go back and rewatch Andor Season 1 and Andor Season 2 now, she becomes so much more interesting, because now you see that more. Like when they have that fight in episode 5 or 6, whatever it was, in Season 2, when they're arguing about how they should run this thing, you're not thinking about Clea really being the one in charge, or at least it being about her revenge, as Luthen puts it. And it really is. So now when you go back and watch this whole thing, it's not just Luthen who's in charge. Clea is really the minds, or not the minds, but, you know, she's a 50-50 partner in this whole operation. Like, she's a big, big part of it. And now when you go back and watch the entire series, it becomes even crazier. But let's get to this Dedra stuff.
I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. And also at the same time, Dedra is getting closer and closer. I share my dreams with ghosts. Denise Goff, we couldn't wait to get together for the final confrontation. I'm damned for what I do. Unfortunately, it ended bad for me.
And she's so pleased with herself, you know? She's so pleased. And then he wins.
What is my sacrifice?
There's nothing else but the revolution for him. Everything he says to Young at that elevator is true.
I burned my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. The emotions there was, okay, this is it. I'll never see Clea again, but it has to be done. You are not gonna win. So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
Oh, so good. Yeah, the monologue from Luthen in Season 1 has just become even more, iconic with this second season and how Luthen's character comes to an end. He does sacrifice everything. Oh, still gives me chills. Oh my God, I got goosebumps, chat. All right.
All you know.
This reminded me, and it might be because The Last of Us Season 2 is coming out right now, but Clea breaking into this hospital and saving Luthen, it reminded me of, if you've seen The Last of Us, give me one into the chat if you've seen The Last of Us, but if you've seen it, you know what I mean. The hospital scene in Season 1 with Joel, I won't spoil it or anything, but that's what it reminded me of.
Now is how much you hate. You bank that, you hide that, to keep it alive until you know what to do with it.
I think what helps Clea do what she has to do in that moment is all the hate that she feels for him and all that love, those two extremes. It's so confusing, so conflicting, and she doesn't want to leave him there. But she has to tell herself she's got to run because she's got to get that message back to Yavin. She can't get caught. And that's what blows my mind about the fact that Clea is the person that gets the information about the Death Star to Yavin.
And this is Jordan Rennie with a very generous $2 house says, sorry I'm late, was watching Rogue One. How could you? Late for a live stream? I'm kidding. I appreciate it, Jordan. I hope Rogue One was as great as it possibly can be now after watching Andor.
As far as you know, they're just playing cards and getting drunk in a day that apparently is not going to bring anything. And suddenly, yeah, the most important mission happens.
It's all been part of one big lie.
So I was sort of asking on Monday's prediction stream, how can this final 3 episodes be a ending? How can it be an ending when we know that eventually goes to Rogue One? And this was the answer. As Diego Luna just said, this was the final mission. This was it. This was the most important mission of the entire series. I didn't know how they were going to do it. I thought it might have ended in a big old firefight, some sort. But no, it was just this most important mission ever was getting the information of the Death Star, the information of this super weapon off of Coruscant. Because Clea was the only one who knows, but she doesn't really want to go back to Yavin all that much. She has to be convinced to. But getting that information to the Rebel base on Yavin, that is the most important mission of the entire series. And that's the climactic end. And it does end in a little bit of a firefight between K2SO and the ISB and Melshi and Clea almost dying. But yeah.
It's all about this weapon.
And bringing her and having that piece of information is crucial for history to be what it is.
You need to tell these people in Yavin what they're up against.
Death Star. What a prescient turn of phrase.
I don't know if they talk about it in this video, so I want to talk about it now before we get to the Krennic stuff, because Krennic is badass. Partagaz. Partagaz's death. What did we think of that? It was very surprising. Honestly, on my death list that I had of accumulating of characters of Dedra and Wilmon and Vel and all those, I didn't have Partagaz on my list. What do we think of that? The only wish I had from Andor was a little bit of a reference to Stardust. Well, it's hard to mention Stardust and not really... Stardust is more of an inside thing with Galen and his daughter, you know? I'm thinking Thrawn bailed out Dedra. Sadly, Thrawn is not around to do so. He's currently on Peridia with Ezra Bridger. Yeah. Yeah. Episode 8 and 9 of this season were in a different universe. They were very good, I'll give you that. Krennic was great. Poking at her head was wild. Yeah, that was pretty good too. What do you think about Partagaz in his death? I was shocked. I was shocked too. I didn't see that coming. It was more so because he failed, because the whole beginning of episode 12 is Clea and the rest of them escaping Coruscant, and he was in charge of that operation. He was in charge of making sure that she didn't escape Coruscant, and he failed. So now, the most important secret that's been kept for over a decade has made it to the rebellion. The fact that they have this super weapon. And that's what eventually triggers into the destruction of that super weapon by a single X-Wing flown by Luke Skywalker. So, the fact that he fails and allows Clea to leave Coruscant is why he has to do what he does. Because if he doesn't, he's probably going to be thrown into prison just right alongside of Dedra. but I really didn't see it coming. I did not see it coming. He's not on Peridea at this time? Yeah, he is. Indeed, he is. The end of Star Wars Rebels takes place before the end of Andor Season 2. Yeah. Not only that, Partagas also realized that the rebellion will eventually win. That's true, too. He's listening to Nemik's manifesto. When Legret walks into the room, he's listening to Nemik. And Nemik was pretty much saying how the Empire will never win because rebellion is popping up all across the galaxy. And because the rebellion is so the way that they are, there's seeping out just leaks and all this stuff. There's this ISB spies, and it's just chaos for the last 2 days that Partagas has been dealing with, that he doesn't want to do it anymore. And yes, he probably knows that he's done. The Empire will eventually lose. It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah. It was, again, perfect writing. But let's get to the Krennic scene with Dedra, because this was peak Krennic. Peak.
I don't know if Dedra knows what role she's playing in the Death Star project. It's only towards the end that she puts it together when she's being interrogated by Krennic.
Who else knows?
About what? When the doors opened and he walked and his cloak kind of splayed behind him, I had a shiver. Even I was like, oh my God.
I think that once you have that cape on and you are in the world of, Star Wars, it tells you a lot about what to do.
And then he did this weird thing with his finger on the top of my head. I thought, brilliant.
I think what's unexpected about Deidre's character from Krennic's point of view is just how, in your face she kind of is. I mean, she is a kind of a minor, sort of lower echelon. And Krennic's pretty close to the top.
Yes, I'm a scavenger, but I've had to be.
What made?
That's pretty good too, because when he comes in, he's like, "Why do you think I'm here?" And she's like, "Because of Lonnie's death." And he's like, well, "Why the hell would I be here for that?" So you think my time is that it should be wasted on that nonsense? You really think that me, big old me, Director Krennic, should be wasting his time with that stuff?
Makes this woman so fascinating. It's like, what do you do when a minion thinks they are in charge of everything and that they know better than the Emperor?
That's very well put. What do you do when you have a minion who thinks they know more than the Emperor?
Kind of dangerous, no?
We'll do our best to carry on without you.
So good. The fact that he doesn't even look at her too, he's looking away while he's holding her head, saying, "We'll try to do the best we can without you."
The 5 women at the end of the show is really what the show's kind of about.
The Gormans.
The 5 women? Hang on. Well, Vel, Clea, Mon Mothma, Bix, maybe? Bix, I guess, yeah. Who's the 5th one? Who's the 5th one, chat? Am I missing someone? Clea, Vel, Mon Mothma, Bix. Who am I missing? His mom? No, she's dead. The sister, maybe? Maybe. His sister? Let's see if they reveal what 5 women we're talking about.
Ferrix. Your mother.
It's the victory, it's the pain, it's the life that these 5 women have had. It really gives the show, I think, its
Cinta, maybe?
ultimate punch at the end, dramatically.
Oh, Dedra. It's Dedra. It's Dedra, chat. Obviously. Obviously, we were just talking about her. It's Dedra. So the 5 women he's talking about, sort of in the finale where we leave them off, is Mon Mothma, Dedra, Clea, Vel, and Bix. There you have it. Because Cinta is dead. The sister's not in the story. The mom is dead. It's Dedra.
I mean, it's the end, We aren't
crazy. The fact that she's in the same outfit that Cassian wears in season 1 is so wild.
going to be coming back to Dedra. She's done.
She's lost her direction in this world.
Put this on.
But Vel does show a kindness to her. And that, I think, brings Claire away from the edge a little bit.
For Val, as we come to a close, I think there's a newfound wisdom for her, and I think something has shifted. I don't know where she would go next. Definitely not home.
It's deeply satisfying. I want so much for Mon Mothma within that space. It's where she should be.
It was wonderfully freeing to know where we were going to end up. This is only a couple hours away from where we're starting the movie. It was sort of relaxed. I mean, all he's doing is walking to a ship, and Mon and Vel are having coffee, and Wilmon's having breakfast. Knowing to not try too hard was important.
Ironically,
knowing not to try too hard is actually very important. They could have done this crazy big ending where something wild happens and blah, 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 blah. No, it was a simple ending where you get closure for every single different character at the same time. But it's so simple, ridiculously simple, and it's perfect.
Final episode has some of the least amount, quantity-wise, of music. Its biggest shining moment is that montage. There was a lot of discussion
in the Force Healer, because in episode 7, which many people forget about because episode 8 and 9 were so good, episode 7, that Force Healer pretty much tells Cassian what his future is. And as he's leaving Yavin here to go off on that adventure, to go off, well, he does eventually come back to Yavin during the movie, but to go off to start that process of he is the messenger and he will be the messenger of the Death Star plans and sacrifice his life for the rebellion, which is what that Force Healer told him. To make eye contact with her right before he leaves, it's so spot on.
As the plot develops over the season, to have the music slowly becoming more orchestral and less electronic, so that when it finally touched Rogue One, it would feel like the palette had shifted to that. So each episode, we kept pushing this transition farther and farther along. And then finally, that musical handoff really happens in that last moment when Cassian's flying away. That's kind of like the big orchestral moment that was rare for like the rest of the score, ironically.
That's pretty wild. Honestly, I didn't really think when I'm watching Andor that a lot of this was electronically made. I don't know. I thought, especially with season 1, a lot of the stuff on Ferrix, that was all just instrumental things. But what he's pretty much saying is because there's sort of that electronic music feel to Andor season 1 and Andor season 2, I guess you have Niemos, which has that awesome electronic music. It's not until the very end when it transitions slowly into the orchestral stuff, because that's what Rogue One has in it. Guys, I know because I did all the breakdown videos yesterday and I had to go to sleep that I haven't watched Rogue One yet. And I could just feel it like a weight on my shoulders. I got to go watch this movie so that I can enjoy it so much better in a different light.
Here we are at the end of an extraordinary journey. It is time for goodbye.
It really is always happy and sad to know you come to an end. You know, this Andor family that we built, the whole team that made it incredibly joyful to get up every morning.
Every single person is working at the top of their game.
Deeply creative, brilliant people, all in one boat, rowing together.
I loved making it. It's interesting, it's complex.
The action, the music, the tension, the story, the plot.
The look, the costume, the hair and makeup do miracles. And then, of course, who doesn't want to have a spaceship of his own?
I will never forget skulking around a galaxy far, far away with Stellan Skarsgård.
Bye-bye. It's gonna be hard to forget.
K2, I'm biased. I love seeing him in action.
Who doesn't?
I'm so grateful to be part of the family, and I will miss it, and I'll miss the people. It's the people I'll miss very, very much.
That's what's kind of the biggest bummer about this show. Is like with some stories, with like Ahsoka or whatever, like those characters can be seen later down the line, unless they, of course, die. But for these characters, even the ones who survive, we may never see them again. Like they're not, oh, maybe in 20, 30 years, they'll get a spin-off show where they're involved or whatever. Like these characters are so in a spot where you can't really see them again because Rogue One and the original trilogy, like there's no future for these people. Oh, it's tough. It's tough. The last 5 episodes of this series are so emotionally, it's crazy.
That's the end, guys.
I don't feel done. And the thing about Star Wars is it's never done. It goes into the Star Wars canon. Like, it's going to be there forever.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, every single one of you.
Andor is unlike anything that I ever worked on. And the fact that that's being appreciated by this passionate fan base, in the end, that's the most exciting thing. The fact that people are really getting it, what you do, is the most confirming thing.
It is funny, though, because when you look at this, when you look back at Andor, you're going to look back at it as one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time. And the fact is, the first season didn't get very many views. I think the second season is up on the numbers a little bit. I haven't really checked them out too much, but I have seen that they're up at least. But the first season got absolutely crapped on and bore. People complaining about not enough aliens. People complaining about the blaster look on Aldhani and there being bricks in Star Wars. Like, they found anything and everything to complain about. And that seems to be the common occurrence with Star Wars shows. I mean, you find anything and everything to complain about because we hate Star Wars for some reason. And the fact is, looking back at it, the fandom that has grown around this series, the fact that it is one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time, and it wasn't really appreciated right from the jump, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Maybe we'll learn our lesson for the next time, but probably not. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Darth Vacunar, what's up?
Hello there.
That video did give us a lot of sort of background stuff and behind the scenes type looks, but I want to show you guys this, because this is an article that StarWars.com posted. There's actually a few here. Yeah, so let's do this one. This is Secrets of the Set of Andor, week 4, Andor season 2. And this is the Secrets of the Sets. These are sort of Easter egg type things, behind the scenes, whatever. So, take a look at this. So here we got above, Luthen is meeting Lonnie. Yeah, so this is just where they did it. It's in Spain. A lot of the Coruscant stuff is filmed in Spain, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, we got a Loth cat. What they call a Tuca cat here. But a Loth cat was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. This one I thought was crazy. So for any of you High Republic fans out there, did you notice that the hospital in episode 10 that Luthen gets brought to and Clea has to kill him in, that hospital was called the Lina So Medical Center? And for those of you who aren't High Republic fans, Lina So is the Chancellor of the Republic on Coruscant during the events of Phase 1, at least, in Phase 3, I guess, of the High Republic books. So the Chancellor from all those years ago in the High Republic is getting references to Andor. It's really strange because when you look at Andor, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have the Force. It doesn't have Jedi. It feels like Star Wars, but it's different. And it doesn't have that almost growing of lore, but it does have weird things like mentions of Forgotten Empire. Mentions of High Republic characters. Like, it still feels intertwined in the canon of Star Wars, but it does it in such weird ways. Very, very weird ways. Wild. But that's a little cool nod towards the High Republic, as you can see right there. Pretty cool. This character, we were calling E.T.'s grandmother during the live stream. This character is from the first season. It's just a side sort of alien. Oh my god, an alien in Andor? That's crazy. But yeah, the grandmotherly alien was briefly on Niemos in season 1. And that's the character that gets pushed around there. This is pretty cool. So you see the Cassian and Bix living in the home, and it's all nice and clean and everything, and then it's like destruction. This is only 2 years in between these two. So it's the same room. Everything's the same. But what 2 years can do. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Again, where they filmed these shots, these were in Spain again. This was in Spain. Yeah. There was another one in here that I wanted. Oh yeah, the Mud Troopers from Solo. Talked about that. Oh, this. So the game that they were playing is actually a brand new game in the Star Wars universe. They call it Rainza, which is what Cassian, Melshi, and K2 are playing at their home. And it was created by the Andor Arts and Graphics Department. And it's a tile game that's sort of like ancient Mahjong and dominoes. So pretty cool. Giving more to the lore. And then, yes, here's our boy Pow, or also known as that. That. Admiral Raddus was back. True. General Draven, yet again, and that's where he meets Tivik. So he's on his way to go meet Tivik at the Rings of Kafrene. Kafrene? Yeah, Kafrene. So those are sort of the secrets behind the scenes. But now I want to get to this article with Tony Gilroy and talking about this, how this season finale sets up and leads directly into Rogue One and why he did certain things the way that he did. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter, and it's Andor creator Tony Gilroy on series finale's biggest moves and Rogue One links. Take a look at this. It's pretty rare, nearly unheard of, that you know exactly how a TV show is going to end before it even begins. And that was a big concern for a lot of people going into Andor, even season 1, because they're like, okay, well, we know where the story ends, so how good can this series be? Clearly very good. Yet Andor concluded previously how showrunner Tony Gilroy said that it would back in its series launch in 2022, leading up directly into the first scene of Rogue One, which is what he said all the way back in 2022. Andor concludes as Cassian is going to meet the Source at the Ring of Kafrene, known as Tivik, where the film is going to show how he gains valuable intel about the Death Star. But now we know that he has a lot more intel already. Oh, hang on, we got a super chat. Jordan Rennie with a very generous $5 holla. I appreciate that. Says, gonna miss Andor Tuesdays. Oh, yeah. What's next for Star Wars projects to look forward to? The Mandalorian and Grogu? Well, first of all, I'm glad you asked. And yes, I'm gonna miss Tuesdays quite a bit. The next project for Star Wars, I think, well, actually, I know, is the Rebuild the Galaxy Season 2, which is going to be pretty cool. Sort of that what-if thing with Lego Star Wars. It's nothing too crazy. Sorry, had to yawn. It's nothing too crazy. It's still pretty cool. But then we have Visions Volume 3 to sort of end the year. That's in the fall, not till October, I think. So Visions Volume 3 will be pretty cool. But it's 2026, which is going to be the year of Star Wars. It's going to be pretty damn wild. And that's going to be the Maul series, the animated new multi-season show about Darth Maul in the time between the Clone Wars and Rebels. Then it's the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and then it's Ahsoka Season 2. So 2026 might be the greatest Star Wars content-wise year of all time, with the Maul series, Mando and Grogu, and Season 2 of Ahsoka. But that's what the future, or close future, I guess, looks like for Star Wars. Because you could go on to talk about all the movies that are in play. You got Dawn of the Jedi, the Rey movie, Simon Kinberg trilogy, Sean Levy's Starfighter movie. Plenty of stuff for Star Wars content. We have no loss of Star Wars content moving forward. It's just, yeah, we're gonna miss this. We're gonna miss the Andor of it all, for sure. Yeah. Okay, but I appreciate it, Jordan. But now that I've been so rudely interrupted, let me get back to this article. God. But we know where, of course, the show ends. And yet so much else about this critically acclaimed Star Wars drama was very much a mystery until late in the season, including the fates of many characters like Dedra, Bix, and Cyril Khan. Well, a couple notable characters from the first season, Kino Loy and Cassian's sister, were missing, and they did not return. Now, we did talk about this, so he probably gets asked about it, we can, whatever. But here's the question first asked to Tony Gilroy. You have the line, "What a bitter end," in the bitter ending said by Clea in the finale. The revelation that Bix is pregnant, or revelation, sorry, that Bix is pregnant, and Cassian has a son he didn't even know about, to me, actually makes his fate somehow more tragic, not less. Oh yeah, it makes it way more tragic because he has something to live for. But he says this, I agree. It does 3 things for me. So this ending with Bix and the child does 3 things for Tony Gilroy. It does exactly what you said. I think it makes his sacrifice all that much more bitter. And I think that for anybody who had any lingering doubts about Bix leaving in episode 9, it explains it. For anyone who was hesitant about buying into that scene, the fact that she's just leaving Cassian behind. For anybody who had doubts about that, this is the real reason as to why. She had a child. She was pregnant, and she had to leave this rebellion. And finally, ultimately, I was desperate to end on a hopeful note. Because even though this character of Cassian is going to die in Rogue One, and all this stuff is so bad because it's the Empire winning over and over and over again, Luthen dies, they all die, everybody's dying. He wanted to end it on a hopeful note. Rebellions are built on hope. Isn't just a t-shirt, it's a legitimate flame that a lot of people need to see. So hopefully I was ending on something that was more upbeat, and it was important for me to do that. So that's why the final scene, the very last scene, is Bix with the child. And by the child, I don't mean Grogu, I mean Cassian's child. Is it confirmed that it's Cassian's kid? I thought that Bix just met another man. No, it's Cassian's kid. Yeah. I think Bix should call her kid Mike. I agree. I'll take the Cassian Andor Jr. role. This is my audition for Cassian Andor Jr. You ready? Where? I sound like Star Wars fans who don't like Andor Season 2. Where? I'm kidding. God. It's a joke. Where? Okay. The next question asked was, if Bix wasn't secretly pregnant, would she have still left Cassian to continue fighting the cause? And he said, I don't know the answer to that. I think she is pregnant when she leaves. So there you go. There you have it. The reason she leaves is because she is pregnant. Obviously, it is also has to do with, the fact that, the fact that Jordan keeps sending me super chats, I appreciate it. Now, the fact that Cassian's so important to the rebellion, she knows that, and he needs to be fully on board the rebellion, but also because she is pregnant. Now being so rudely interrupted again. Jordan Rennie with a very generous $5 holla says, how many projects will come out before everyone starts calling for Tony Gilroy to return for another Star Wars project? 0. People are already doing it. Now, I think the reality is, as soon as a project bombs, as soon as we get a bad Star Wars show, that's when they'll call for it. Everybody's happy when it's good. Plain and simple. People didn't like the sequel trilogy, so forever, for the rest of time, you're going to see people crapping on the sequel trilogy, referring back to how Andor is such a good show, but they also made the sequel trilogy. Mandalorian's so good, but they also made the sequel trilogy. Like, there's always going to be that. So once they make something bad, I really, really hope not, because I don't think it will be, but let's say the Maul series sucks. It won't. But let's say it does. Then immediately they're going to be like, get Tony Gilroy back. He makes good Star Wars. Like, you're going to see that immediately. Yeah. For sure. But now that I've been so rudely interrupted, let me get back to this. I love that the rebellions are built on hope line. It comes from a humble hotel clerk. That's where the very important line from Rogue One comes from on Gorman, particularly because now that we know that Cassian is a lot better, we know him a lot better than we did in Rogue One, that line doesn't sound like the sort of thing that he came up with. That's actually very true, because Cassian's not really that hopeful person. He's not the one who would say that rebellions are built on hope. That is sort of ingrained into him from what he sees on Gorman, from what Bix does, the sacrifice that Bix makes, from the sacrifice that Luthen makes, from what Cassian learns over time. That's what it turns into. Because no, I agree with that. He is not a character that seems like he would have come up with that line himself. Tony Gilroy's response to that was, it's embarrassing. My office is my house, and my son is a very big Star Wars fan. So when he comes over and says, Dad, what you doing? What you going to do about rebellions are built on hope? I go, what do you mean? And he said, well, who's going to say it? And it comes up because it comes up in Rogue One. But where did Cassian get it from? And I go, doesn't that just come from somewhere else, like in the movie? He goes, no, it comes from him. I'm like, holy shit, I better find somebody to drop that in there. So it's my son who saved my ass on that. That's pretty wild. Where certain things come from are pretty damn cool. And Tony Gilroy, the fact that this line is even relevant in Andor Season 2 is because of his son saying that it needs to be in there. That's pretty funny. All right, jumping back a bit, there was an amazing sequence with the massacre on Gorman in those final moments. Could Cyril have tilted, into joining the rebellion? Honestly, before I even read Tony's response to this, he drops the gun. Like when he's pointing the gun at Cassian and he looks up at him and he goes, "Who are you?" He starts to slowly drop the blaster. He's not going to kill Cassian because he's already sort of made that decision that he's leaving the Empire. So I think he would have become a rebel if he had survived this event and not got shot in the head. I've always viewed him right from the beginning as a romantic and a fantasist. Fantasist? Is that a word? That has this incredibly rich internal life. And I think at a lot of times that people go where they're liked. So Dedra likes him. He wants promotion. He stays with the Empire. Where they're encouraged. There's a scenario under which he might have taken an entirely different path. I think that when you see Gorman, that he likes it there. He's grown comfortable there. It's certain appeal of his fashion sense and its fastidiousness, English chat. When the Gorman massacre happens, so many things are upended in his life and they come undone. Obviously, his relationship with Dedra, where he literally chokes her, which is absurd, and his mom. He goes home to visit his mom and that whole stuff. That happens the day before or the year before. I'm not too sure. Darth Raccoon with a very generous $2 holla says Andor is greater than any other Star Wars content except for Star Wars Rebels. Wow, that's some high praise. The amount of chaos that has just been visited on his soul, is almost incomprehensible. And then you see Cassian in this dream state, to see the person that you've been chasing for years, and then to have them not even know who you are. I feel for all these characters, but I'm really sympathetic towards Cyril. It is very brutal. In this most chaotic point in Cyril's life, when he literally looks at the person he's been looking for years, Cassian Andor, and he says, "Who are you?" Oh, it's brutal. It's so brutal. Yeah. Ron, what's up? How we doing? So the question asked now is, so my prediction for the ambitious Dedra was that she would be so successful that she would be rewarded with a position on the Death Star. A lot of people had the same theory. And then eventually we would know that she dies in A New Hope when the Death Star is destroyed. But that's not what happens. She eventually goes into prison. And here, actually, he says it here. And then we have her go to Narkina 3 or Narkina 9 or whatever she's on. So it's obviously not Narkina 5 because that's where Cassian was. And, well, he broke out of that place. Yeah. So, and then he says, I mean, it was too juicy to ignore. To have her story end in that same prison or similar prison to where Cassian was in season 1, it's just poetic. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Yeah. Okay, this is where he was asked about the Kino Loy of it all. We already talked about this. He's pretty much saying, why would I ruin such a perfect ending for that character? And it's like Cassian's sister. People sort of want it to be resolved, but it's a good sort of unresolved issue that needs to be there. It's the hole in Cassian that needs to be there so that he joins the rebellion and becomes the hero that he is. Yeah. Oh, here we go. So, also not around in the finale. How about Mon Mothma's daughter's marriage? How's that going? And he laughs about it and says, you've obviously seen in your life at some point where your children become more orthodox. And yes, they sort of leave their parents behind. And that's sort of what happens with Mon Mothma's child. We do get, however, Perrin. So Perrin is with, as you guys are saying, with Davos's wife. If that's confirmed, that's crazy. But he's clearly living it up on Coruscant. Nothing really has changed for Perrin in his life, except for the fact that his wife, who is a little crazy, has left. You know? Rob, what's up? Says, love watching it with you the other night. Rob, I loved watching it with you the other night. The people who love Star Wars just continue to keep on growing, and it's really great. So, yeah. It's really great. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is talking about Partagas. So my favorite shot in the series finale was the ISB commander shooting himself off screen. We are watching outside in the door as there's two stormtroopers as they flinch, and the other guy raises his eyes slightly. They're not even using names in this interview. It was beautiful there. And then, says he just comments that Michael Gene is a really fine actor. So that Partagas end was just so that he would keep himself out of prison. Yeah, he goes on to talk about that there. Let's talk about this. Was there anything in the scripts that you didn't do or you couldn't end up doing? Tony's response: there are things that economically we just couldn't do. Dan Gilroy wrote a really ripped episode of 4-9 that was very different, which was very different introduction of K2SO, but it was a whole self-contained episode that was really a real thriller that we couldn't afford, and we had to reshape. Interesting. So K2SO's introduction was originally very different until it changed quite a bit. Pam, what's up? Melissa, how we doing? All right. How do you hope that Andor changed the way that people viewed Rogue One? As soon as I finished the screener, I immediately rewatched it, and he said, how was it? I haven't done it yet. So obviously it changes quite a bit. Changes the way you watch Rogue One. Give me a 1 into the chat if you guys watched Rogue One already since watching the finale of Andor Season 2. Have you guys already done that? And how does it change that movie? Because there's so many lines, like Rebellions are built on hope, that change because of where we know where they come from. But just so many of the characters have changed so drastically. And the way you look at certain scenes and how they play out, it really changes quite a bit. Saw Gerrera's whole arc, like everything with Cassian has changed. But now you know where it comes from. You know what happened with Luthen. You know all that stuff already. Pretty wild. But that's Tony Gilroy giving a bit of an insight into the back. Oh, let's take a look at this. So this is where Andor finishes up. This is where the reviews for Andor have ended. Actually, does it go by episode? Does it go by episode? No. Does it? Oh, it does. Oh, wait. No, it doesn't. Never mind. Okay, so this is where the reviews for Andor have come to a close. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, it currently sits at an 89 from the audience, from the critic score, and an 87 from the audience score. Now, 87 is just far too low. This second season of Andor was just a masterpiece. I get the first half was a little bit slow. It was more of a build-up towards that Gorman massacre. But this back half was the payoff of all payoffs. It was the connection to Rogue One, which exceeded my expectations. Like, it was so damn good. But that brings up a great question. Tell me in the chat, what do you rate Andor Season 2 as a whole out of 10? The entire season. What do you rank it out of 10? The entire season. So obviously the last half of it is very high 9s. I think the first half is probably high 8s, low 9s. So you're sitting around a 9.5 out of 10 for the entire season. At least. That's insane. That's insane. But tell me in the chat, where do we rank the entire season? 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9.1, 9.9, 9.3, 9.5, 10, 10, 10, 9, 8.5. No less than a 9.8. Valid. 10. 9.98. Okay. I got to ask, what's the 0.02 that's missing? You know? What's missing? Yeah. I will fight you if you rate this low. That's pretty funny. Yeah. I mean, for season 2, it's a very high 9. 9.5 and up for me. Like, it's just that good. It's only in the same conversation as like Andor Season 1, Ahsoka, Rebels Season 4, Mando Season 2, Bad Batch Season 3, Clone Wars Season 5, Clone Wars Season 7. Like those, that's the same conversation as it. Top tier season of television. 9.5, 9.5, 9.7. Nice. The ending even saves the slow beginning. Yeah, I'm not saying that the beginning was bad. It was just building up towards what the ending is. So it currently sits at an 87 from the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It might change, might go up, but a 98 on critic score. Now, IMDb, because people don't really like Rotten Tomatoes too much, IMDb is usually more of a liked place here. And I don't think they do the whole season, but check out these numbers. So we'll start with episode 1. It's a 7.9, 7.5, 8.6, 7.9, 8.2, 8.8, 8.5, and then it gets to chaos. Episode 8 through 12 are the 5 straight highest rated Star Wars episodes in a row. Not that they're all the highest rated, but they've never been a 5 episode stretch like this ever. As episode 8 is a 9.8. It was a 9.9. It must have gone down. 9.8. Episode 9 is a 9.7. Episode 10 is a 9.6. Episode 11 is a 9.5. And episode 12 is a 9.7. There have never been a higher 5 episode arc in Star Wars history. And episode 8 to 12 might be the best 5 episodes in a row from Star Wars ever. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's insane. Everybody say hi to Sam in the chat. She just texted me. She's interrupting our live stream. God! But this is insane. 9.7, 9.6, 9.7, 9.8, 9.6, 9.5. Those are ridiculously high scores. I recently, before Andor Season 2, or maybe in the middle of Andor Season 2, made a video, a short, about the highest rated Star Wars episodes of all time. Up there, you have the finale of Mando Season 2. You have a bunch of Clone Wars episodes. The last, I think, 3 of Clone Wars of Season 7 are all very, very highly rated. You have a Rebels episode, I think it's Twilight of the Apprentice. You have Andor's One Way Out, I think, is up there too. And now you have 5 straight episodes in a row from Andor Season 2 that are so ridiculously high. It's insane. Yeah. Alex, what's up? How we doing? So it's pretty wild. 5 in a row, all at a 9.5 or higher out of 10 is craziness. It really is. There was one other thing I wanted to show you guys. Where was that? Oh, I saved it as a picture. Yeah, look at this. So we're talking about how Krennic was not really the biggest bad guy in Rogue One because Tarkin was always 10 steps ahead of him, even kills him with the Death Star, and he gets force choked by Vader. So he's not really this big bad. But in Andor, he is, because there's always a bigger fish. Here you got from the Emperor, who's of course the master to Darth Vader. Vader, who's in charge of Tarkin, Krennic, Partagaz, Dedra, Cyril. There's always a bigger fish. It's really funny because Cyril dies to Cassian, but he leaves Dedra. Dedra doesn't die, but she gets thrown into the weeds by Krennic. And Partagaz, you know, what happens to him because of his failure to Krennic. Tarkin kills Krennic. Vader doesn't kill Tarkin, but the Death Star blows up and kills him. And Vader kills Palpatine. There truly is always a bigger fish. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Pretty dang cool, if you do say so myself. Wow. Crazy, crazy, craziness. Well, let's talk about something that's in the title of this live stream real quick. Is this the perfect ending? How could this ending have been better? Let me put it that way. Like, this seems to me, and I've thought about this because I did the breakdown videos yesterday and I was thinking about it the whole time. How could you possibly have made this a better ending? More K2. More K2 throughout the entire season, yes, but K2 is in the ending. The final 3 episodes has a lot of K2 in it, and that's why it made it so good. That's what makes it really the perfect ending. And of course, the fact that it ends right here with Bix and a child of Cassian's and this whole hope, I guess, that there was a future for Cassie and all that stuff. That, I guess, is really the perfect ending, the final scene. What do we think? Cyril lowers the gun, realizing that he's been really stupid. Well, I think he's sort of been brainwashed by the Empire and he didn't know it. Uncle Harlow. Okay, thank God. Let's take a second. Thankfully, Uncle Harlow was not revealed. The Marok of the show. And okay, granted, Marok has always been a thing, okay? It's always been a thing. Since Ahsoka, really. Ahsoka had Marok, and we were all like, who's Marok? Is he Star Killer? Is he whatever? And he's nobody. He was Smoke. Then the Bad Batch Season 3 comes around. We have this clone assassin. Who is he? He's just nobody. He was just a clone assassin. Then everybody thought he was Tech. Then in The Acolyte, you had Chimere. Who's under the mask? Is it Plagueis? Is it Palpatine? Is it Plagueis' master? Why the hell am I blanking on his name? Tenebris. Jesus. Tenebris. Is it any of these characters? The Acolyte one was a pretty big reveal. It was Chimere, and it was a great reveal. But still, then you go to the Skeleton Crew, and who's under the mask? The bounty hunter in the trailer. It was Jod, but we thought it was a bounty hunter. Now you come to this one. Who is Uncle Harlow? Uncle Harlow's the big old Marok. And guess what? It's nobody. And it's great. It's great that it's nobody because it would have been stupid if it was somebody. Yeah. Vader or Palpatine. Okay, let's talk about that. So this finale went through with pretty much no legacy cameos. I mean, you have Bail Organa, you have Admiral Raddus, you have Rogue One characters. But no Vader, no Palpatine, no Leia, no Tarkin. Would that have made it better or just taken away from the show itself? I don't know. I feel like giving a Palpatine while on Coruscant, like earlier on in the season, would have been pretty cool. Yes, it would have stole the show completely. Seeing Palpatine would have been great. But it wasn't necessary, I guess. But would it have made it better? To make it perfect, I would have wanted more Saw. Okay, more Saw. Getting to see how he lost his legs would have been cool. Partagaz's final scene was amazingly portrayed. True. A broken and desperate man with nowhere to turn. True. And he's listening to Nemec's manifesto, too, which is awesome. Yeah. A little more fan service would have been better. Interesting. So the fan service question of it all, because everybody brings up fan service as if it's a bad thing, more fan service would have made it even better. Fascinating. I agree with you to an extent, because I feel like if Vader showed up at the end or whatever, it would have been online, like they only put Vader in there for the fan service, and it would have been a complaint, I think. They went out complaint free. I mean, there's always going to be complaints, but you know what I mean. I want a Kino Loy. I want a Kino Loy too. But I guess the way that Tony puts it, that he had a perfect ending and bringing more of that character would have just made it worse, kind of makes sense. Yeah. I'm glad they sucked the landing. Oh, me too. It could have gone very badly. Like, this second season was not a guaranteed win for Star Wars. It could have gone very badly. Yeah. If Vader had shown up, it would have been just a little bit like, it would have been a little disservice, to Rogue One. Yeah, that's true. He does show up in Rogue One. And Rogue One is pretty much an extension of this story, so you do get Leia, and you do get Vader, and you do get Tarkin, just later on in the story. Because Andor Season 2, the story just keeps on going. Cassian and K2 blast off in that starfighter, in that U-Wing, and they show up right where Rogue One starts off. So really, it's a never-ending story. And yes, Vader is in it. And yes, Leia is in it. And yes, Tarkin is in it. You get all of them. Can I get some good cups full of orders in the chat, please? Bumpa! Delicious. On Saturday's live stream, we will be doing the tier list. So we will be putting this season up against all the other seasons of Star Wars. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't know where it's going to land. I really don't. Is it going to be better than Ahsoka Season 1? I don't know. I'm going to have to give it a lot of thought. Will it be higher than like The Mandalorian Season 2 and Andor Season 1? Well, I think it will be higher than Andor Season 1. We'll see. We shall see. But that will happen on Saturday's live stream, so watch out for that. Because, of course, we go live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We're back to Tuesdays, by the way. Yes, because Andor is over. We are back to Tuesdays. Look at all these good cups followers. This is insane. This is insane. Why is it called Rogue One when there will be no Rogue 2? Well, it's not called Rogue One because it's the first movie. It's called Rogue One because that's the group's name. Yeah. Mike, is the tier list only live action? No. It's all seasons of all shows. Like we've been doing we've done it before. We're just adding Andor season 2 to it. And of course, things change. So maybe some of the other ones will change around. Yeah. You have the last tier list. I hope you're starting over. Yeah, we're starting over. We're doing them all again. The thing is, what I've found with Star Wars 2 is when you rewatch something, you look at it differently. When you don't watch something for a while, you look at it differently. Like there's a lot of different ways that you feel about a certain project. So some things can get boosted up when you rewatch it and you're like, oh my God, that was a lot better than I thought it was. Or it can be brought down and you're like, that wasn't as good as I thought it was. So it's a never ending tier list. Okay. The height of each project goes up and down all over the place, you know? Mike. A bit light on the likes today. What? Can we smash a freaking like on the stream? Chat? I know that in Rogue One, Jin says that she hasn't seen Saw in a long time, but she deserves her own series. It would be a part of Saw's story that could be included. And of course, we could get some things that were left behind that could be said. There's always room for more story like that, but I really don't think they're going to do that. Like this time period specifically, from like 6 BBY to the end of the original trilogy is so filled out because you have Andor season 1, 2, and Rogue One, and you have Rebels season 1 through 4, and you have the comics with Vader and the Inquisitors and all that stuff. So it's really, really filled out. So I seriously doubt we're going to see another series in this time period. Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Now I feel like, why is Jyn Erso the main character of Rogue One? Well, Rogue One is not Andor season 3. It's still Rogue One. So, yes, I mean, Cassian's just as a main character in that movie as Galen is, you know? There's a lot more than 17 likes. I think that's just on your end. There's a lot more, yeah. Hodger with a very generous $2 holla says, Rogue Mom, a serial Star Wars story. Yeah, we didn't get Edie's end. I mean, we kind of did in episode 8 when she's crying at the screen because her son is dead. Yeah, brutal. Yeah. More likes. Be careful not to choke on your aspirations. Always choking on the more likes aspirations. This show is like an orchestra of everyone playing their part so masterfully. True. It sure keeps me wanting more. So sad it's over. Yeah. I mean, it's the perfect ensemble cast because as much as it's called the Andor series, Cassian being the main character, there's a lot of main characters. Dedra's just as main a character as Cassian. So is Luthen. So is Cyril. So is Bix. Like, those are all main characters of the show. It's not like The Mandalorian, where if you spent an entire episode of The Mandalorian and Din's not in it, it'd be weird. Much like in the Book of Boba Fett. When Boba's not in an entire episode, it's a little weird. In episode 10, where Cassian's not in a single second of the episode, it's not weird. It's just not. And it's actually really, really good. So, yeah, it's called Andor, but that's just in name. It should be called Rebels. It probably would be called Rebels if Star Wars Rebels didn't exist. Yeah. Indeed. Edie visits Dedra in prison. Now that's an idea. I'd watch that. They should make a whole series just about that one episode, you know? JC, what's up? I cared more about the small characters in this show than I do main characters of The Acolyte. Well, that's you. I mean, I cared about the main characters of the show, yeah. The problem with The Acolyte, too, is they killed off everybody. As much as I thought they were going to kill off everybody in this show, they didn't. Yeah. Jyn Erso's the GOAT. That's true, too. And so is Cassian. The craziest part to me is that because Cassian is in Rogue One and is in 2 seasons of his own show, he now has more screen time than like 99% of the characters in Star Wars. Probably only behind Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, he has more screen time than the entire original trilogy cast. It's crazy. But because of shows like the Clone Wars and stuff, and because there's so much Vader in Rebels, Vader is definitely still the number one, but Kenobi's still probably there too. But he's one of the highest, most runtime, most minutes on screen type character. Pretty wild. Yeah. All right, let me end this poll because I want to see where this is at. We left it up almost the entire stream, which is crazy. But what did you think of Andor episode 10, 11, and 12? What do we think, chat? Let's see. Why is it not loading? What is going on here? Oh, 88% of you loved it with over 200 votes. Holy crap. 88% of you loved it. 7% of you liked it. That's 95%. The math is not mathing. 2% said meh, and 1% hated it. That's crazy. But with that being said, I do have to get on out of here. I got to go finish a short for today. Actually, I might do a poll in the community tab today. And it might be, what Star Wars show is your favorite? I'm going to do Andor versus The Mandalorian versus Ahsoka versus Kenobi? Or maybe other? Do another? We'll do a live action one. So, of the live action projects that we have here, chat, what do we got? We got Andor, Mando, Ahsoka, Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte. Am I missing anything? Is that it? 7? Do we have 7? Is 7 the number, chat? So I'll have to do 4. I only have 4 options in the poll, so I'll go Andor, Mando, Ahsoka, and then other. And others will be those 4 others. Okay. Okay. That's what I'll do. Watch out for that community tab, poll tab, community poll thing. Yeah. Later on tonight. And then watch out, of course, for a short tomorrow. And we are getting back on the What Ifs bandwagon because now Andor's over. And we got some other very cool things in the works behind the scenes with the channel. So don't miss out on any of that. The wah-wah-wahing I did earlier was kind of a tease as to what might be coming. So yeah, you might want to look into that. Aaron with a very generous $5 holla says, thanks for doing such a great job with the channel and bringing us so much fun here with these Andor chats. You demand, Mike. Well, Aaron, I really, really appreciate that. That was very, very nice. Wow, that just made my day. I appreciate that, Aaron. I really, really do. Yeah. But again, I can't emphasize this enough. This is nothing. This entire thing we do here is nothing without you guys, the people who love Star Wars. So I appreciate you all so much more than you'll ever know. I say that at the end of every live stream, but it doesn't get, the point doesn't come across, okay? I appreciate you so much more than you'll ever know. And that's not just something I say every stream, it's the truth. So you guys being here is what allows me to do this and allows us to exist as the people who love Star Wars. So I could not appreciate you guys any more than you think you appreciate me. But if you are not yet already in the Discord, go join that immediately. And Holly, there is more Star Wars this year. There's always more Star Wars this year. Rebuild the Galaxy Season 2, Visions Volume 3, but even more than that, trust. Yeah. Okay. But with that being said, I appreciate you all so much more than you'll ever know. Aaron, that was extremely nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're going to have to watch Rogue One very, very soon. Yeah. Mike, the last time you did a bracket style, it was a disaster. That was the March Madness thing, and you're absolutely right. But this is different. We've done this tier list thing before. It's not that, you know? It's different. It's different. Is Tony Gilroy the best writer ever for Star Wars? I feel like a lot of people would immediately say yes. I don't know. That's a tough decision to make. Because dialogue-wise, everybody craps on George Lucas, but the reason that Star Wars exists, and the reason that Star Wars is so iconic, and the reason that we quote every freaking line from Revenge of the Sith in the original trilogy is because of that dialogue. The reason that Star Wars is so successful, I believe, is not only because of this world that George Lucas created, but the dialogue that he wrote. The reason we quote, I am your father, I love you, I know, hello there, like all these just great lines. May the Force be with you. I got a bad feeling about this. That's all George Lucas's writing. So about the crap that he gets for his writing. By the way, it was George Lucas's birthday yesterday. Can we get some happy birthdays to George Lucas in the chat, please? The creator, the GOAT himself, 81 years old yesterday. So give us some happy birthdays to George Lucas yesterday. Well, yeah. So he doesn't get enough credit for the writing that he did. because it's the most iconic writing of all time. Then you have Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and their writing is pretty damn good too. But what Tony Gilroy did with this ensemble cast and the writing of this, it can't be understated. Absolutely. He's definitely one of the greatest. But to make him say the greatest, it's an argument to be had. You know? The I Know was Harrison's idea, not George's. That's true. But even still, the majority of it is. Yeah. Mike, do you like this better than Ahsoka? I don't know. I'm thinking about it, okay? I'm trying to get the recency bias out of my head. I might have to rewatch Ahsoka, you know? And figure it out. Yeah. I think what Ahsoka does for the greatness of the Star Wars lore and universe as a whole is far better than Andor. But Andor story-wise, even that, I don't know. It's so difficult. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it lands. Yeah. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Great writing. Also true. Also true. Yeah. I heard that Dedra ended up in a prison cell at the very end of her life. Yeah, what do you mean? What do you mean, Chris? That's what's in the show. Yeah. Ahsoka was mostly nostalgia bait. No. Not at all. Ahsoka's one of the greatest stories to ever be told. Period. End of sentence. Is Anakin showing up in the world between worlds nostalgia? Yes. Is them going back to the Clone Wars nostalgia? Yes. But does it serve a purpose in the story? Absolutely. It serves one of the biggest purposes ever, which is the fact that Ahsoka's master, the girl that taught her, the guy who taught her everything that she knows, became the most evil person in the galaxy. And seeing the backlash of that, so good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But having said that, I will have to say, I got to get on out of here. I appreciate you all so much more than you'll ever know. Smash a freaking like on the stream if you have not already. Hit that subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified every time I post a video in my pretty face. Will show up in that recommended feed of yours. I know you love Ahsoka, but it's far away behind Andor's perfection. Disagree wholeheartedly. We'll have a full-on discussion about it on Saturday's live stream when we do the tier list, and we'll talk about it then. But I appreciate you all. Smash a freaking like on your way out if you have not already. We got 72 likes. We had over 100 people here this entire live stream. What the hell's going on, chat? What the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? Andor's bad. Sorry, bro. Well, I mean, that's your opinion. Again, I'm not here to convince you that Ahsoka is good by any means, but that's just my opinion. So what are you going to do? Okay. Keep the conversation going in the Discord. There's a link in the description below. And yeah, may the Force be with you. Always. Oh, yeah. What a great stream. What a great show. You guys are the absolute best. This was a blast. I mean, covering Andor over the last 4 weeks has been just spectacular, to say the least. And it continues. I mean, we're going to be still talking about Andor Season 2 for the rest of time because it was so good, much like we talk about all these other great projects. So, is it the best Star Wars ever? I mean, that's a debate to be had for the rest of time. But it was definitely the perfect ending, if I do say so myself. We'll be ranking all these shows on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so don't miss out on that stream. That'll be a blast. And, of course, a lot more content to come. But until then, I hope you have a great rest of your evening, a great rest of your lives, and good night, everybody.